can't see any
Yep.
chat.
Yep. I'll
So,
pull them up. Hello, everybody. I am here today with Winter from the Happy Camper, and she is also a published author, and she just released her book. I was reading over it, and it's a adventurous story that I kind of can put myself in because I lived a very adventurous life as well. We were talking before. But I'll say hello to everybody. Hello, burning up the roads and epic and slow momentum. What's up, buddy? Camping therapy. Hello. Um, and so thank you for being here. And you were just saying you know how you have the changed channel name and kind of how it was a blessing to have the change channel. So, what is it that you're doing over on your new YouTube channel?
well, Bob, on my new channel, what I'm doing are just little tiny 1 minute videos that are inspirational. I'm going to start calling them Winter's Tidbits. And they're just, get out in nature and waterfalls and just you watch a waterfall for a minute or look at a river or sprinkler or whatever. And then I also do travel.
Mhm.
So I go around here and I take videos around where I live and then I post to them. And I think I'm going to be getting a U-Haul truck and I'm going to take you on that journey because I'm going to be doing a build. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You're going to be doing a U-Haul truck build.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what is your plans for the inside? Like, do you want to do like the wood paneling, or are you going to do paint or?
After looking at Johnny's van, I want to do that cedar on the inside. I think that
Mm,
is just beautiful. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the wood. All natural. I want it just to be real natural inside. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Her build is gorgeous.
it
Gorgeous
is.
build.
It is. I'd almost like to duplicate it.
I'm sure as long as you give her credit, I got this at Johnny's Journey. She probably won't mind.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if it doesn't come out good, then don't say you got it from her, I
I
guess.
know, right? She doesn't know me. I know I made this up on the side over here. This isn't Johnny's. This is my error.
Yeah, yeah. So you're out in Colorado right
Yep.
now, right?
Yeah.
I had a property for a little bit out there in Alamosa.
Oh, you're
Um,
close then yeah, you're close.
oh, that's crazy that we were that close then. That's kind of crazy.
Wow. Isn't it
Yeah,
beautiful? Oh,
yeah.
it's so pretty.
It's pretty, but the winter is very cold.
Yeah, it is. I had pipes freeze in 2017. I was toiletless for 4 days.
Oh man. Oh man. Yeah, it was -21 when I was out there this last December.
Yeah, it was negative. I think it was -20 here when the pipes froze. So
Yep.
yeah, it gets chilly.
The mountains are beautiful though. Like the view of the mountains that are right there,
Oh,
it's unbelievable.
oh, I have two mountain ranges and a mesa that I can just turn and go, wow, 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 wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's spectacular. It's
Hmm.
spectacular.
And it's part of that beauty, like makes you go, you know, uh, makes you realize like what God is capable of doing. Shaping those mountains to make them look like that and all that kind of stuff. It's beautiful.
You hit the nail on the head because not to do self-promotion here, but I've got a video that I just put up called Escalante Canyon. And as I was driving through that canyon, that was the thought I kept having is look what he did. Oh my gosh, thank you, God, for what you did. The beauty. Whew. I'm going to cry. It's spectacular.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't start crying. We were already crying
I
before the
know
show
we
started.
were. Like we're going to go on air like this.
Because I was reading through her book and I really um the way she wrote her book is really cool because um you can read each chapter as a little story. She put it together so that you can, you can just dive into a chapter and be in that little part of the story, and just different parts of her life. I just connected with. Uh, she, like me, went through struggles and went through struggles with suicide and all that stuff, and so um, just having somebody else that knows what it is and has come through and uh, not just come through suicide, but looking back on it and realizing that, hey, my purpose for going all that pain was so that I could share that with people and hopefully help them out. And that I hated God for so long, but God's plan eventually showed itself to me, even though it was one of the hardest roads that you can take.
Amen. Amen, Bob. Absolutely. I literally hated being on the planet. I didn't want to be here. I had no desire to be on this planet, especially after my husband and son died. Kill me right now, please. I don't want to be here. And I drank for 21 years, and it just lost my kids for a while because I just really wasn't dealing with my stuff, trying to put it on my kids, going, look, I was such a great mom. My mom sucked, but I was such a great mom. Well, my kids didn't see me that way. So you have to get in and dig and really face yourself. And when I moved into this RV, that's exactly why God brought me here. I'm putting you by yourself so that you can get this done and figure it out. And it took 2 years of just insanity in this RV. I told my
Hmm.
neighbors, if you hear me screaming, I'm just dealing with Satan. Just ignore me.
Yeah, yeah,
Every
and it,
5 minutes. Liar man over here, Mr. Liar man.
yeah, and being in a small space with yourself, man, you have to learn how to deal with yourself because there are no excuses anymore. Why isn't
No,
that picked up? Well, you're the only one here, dude. You better pick it up because nobody else left it.
that's right. That's right. You got that right. So after 10 years of not seeing a daughter and a granddaughter I had never met, she lives in Costa Rica. I, of course, faced my demons and wrote a letter and said, you know what? It's my fault that you kids don't believe in God because I was a lousy representation of Christ. And they read that letter and went, oh my gosh, our mothers, geez, yeah, yay. And so now we've got just the most fantastic relationship. My granddaughter is in love with me. She's always wanting to WhatsApp with me.
Hmm.
And it's just so much fun. I'm so joyful.
Yeah, and it's because you change your mindset, and it's changing the mindset, changing all that, and it's hard to
Yes,
do because um, you know, just like you came from, not that great circumstances. I did too, and we were talking about it before.
yes,
Like I have empathy for my parents because of the stuff they went through. That they did the best that they could. Like they were
that's
just like
right.
everybody else's parents. They were still doing the best that they could. Just
That's
like,
right.
and so I can look back at empathy with that now and go, man, I'm surprised they were able to do as good as they did with what they were given.
Absolutely. I actually embrace my mother now. I embrace her. I love her with all my heart. And she loved me. And that's something that I was shown just this last year is how much my mother actually did love me underneath the evil that showed on the surface. She was the one that made me go to church. She was the one that would, I told you before we went on air, she'd see somebody and go, but for the grace of God, go I. She was just constantly trying to feed me what I needed to know on the spiritual level, but yet on the Satanistic level, which was her alcoholism, that's when all the evil came out. And for a long time, I couldn't see past the evil. I could only see that.
Hmm. Hmm. And how
So,
I, I was, you know, because I read like quite a few chapters before I started skipping, and uh, and I was wondering why you had set up um, the start of the chapters the way you did. because it's not in chronological order. Like the whole book isn't, but just the way that you set
No.
those three up. And until after I read the third one and got finished with that, and realizing it was to show you that yo-yo that you had went on from tightwad to Rick, that was from that bad to that good, and that probably helped give you the strength that after what happened to him, to go, hey, there'll be another good, even though this is bad right now.
Right, right. Well, actually, when I first wrote the book in 2005, I wrote it in 3 months, and I wrote it chronologically. I wrote it from my birth to Rick and Michael's death. The same daughter who I didn't talk to for 10 years, we were talking then, and she said, Mom, no, you don't want to do that. You want to jump around. You want to throw something in there that's thrilling to start, and then, you know, do it like that. She goes, a lot of autobiographies, they go back and forth. Well, the second she said that, I was then given the thought of, let's start with his death and their death. I have a hard time saying my son is dead. I'm so sorry, but it's really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So I started with that. And then when I got to where, I don't know where I am the first chapter, but I thought the best thing to do is to jump back to when I met him and how I met him. But the whole book actually is encompassing the 1 week from the day he died to when I buried him. And then I just weave the funeral parts in and out of my life story as we're going through preparing for this horrible event that we have to face. So that's how the story's told. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a really good story, and I want people to read it. It's called Free Will Sucketh. If you guys want to check it out, it's on Amazon. You can download it and all that stuff. And I've been reading it, and the way she wrote it, like I said, I and you said that's your first book, right, that you wrote?
Yeah.
I mean, the way she wrote it and her life story. We were talking before, and we're both kind of disappointed that YouTube wasn't around when we were going through all the stuff that we were going through, because it would have made great content for you guys to watch.
Would have been a great soap opera, huh, Bob?
Yep. Oh man.
You and me and Satan makes three, man. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, going off, you know, the parent thing, like, and I was talking to you about it. You're normal if you grow up in that kind of environment with that kind of craziness is craziness. So if you are ever in a normal relationship, if you're ever in a normal situation, your brain wants out of it because it doesn't feel normal to you, and you
That's
get
right.
addicted to chaos.
No, that is so true. That is so true. I talk about it being a thrill in the book. There's a thrill under the chaos. And people who live in that pattern, number one, I couldn't see the pattern until after I went through therapy. I had no idea that I was living in that destructive of a pattern, and that my whole family was in that same pattern. Then I went through therapy and clarity came, and I could see my entire family for who they really were underneath the masks everybody was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was such an eye-opener that I bought The Courage to Heal, and I sent it to my mom, and I sent it to my sister. Well, my sister to this day thinks I'm a liar. She doesn't think any sexual abuse happened. And I'm like, okay, lady, you sexually abused your own children, but we don't have that in our family. So we haven't had a relationship since 1989. Her daughter was murdered. I talk about that in the book. And she was 4 years old when she was killed. I was 5 months pregnant with my second child, and had to bury a 4-year-old niece because the stepfather was high on drugs and didn't know where his comb was. So he beat the crap out of my nieces. And the result of that, as we sit here today, all 3 of my nieces are dead. All of them from murder and 2 from drugs. It's a horrible life. It's a horrible life. My sister was never able to climb out of the pattern. And I was. And you can see the result from not allowing it to consume your life anymore. Because if you do, you're going to wind up dead. You're going to wind up in a gutter, or you're going to wind up in an insane asylum. Those are the 3 outcomes of a sexual abuse survivor. You either make it, you die, or you end up in an insane asylum. Those are facts, Bob.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the fact that you and I tried to take our lives at one point, that's a symptom of what was done to us. So yeah.
Yep. And it's more prevalent than people realize, because I mean, I know it's happened to me, so it's probably happened to you. That if you shared that with people, you've heard it shared back with you that it's happened to them more often than not.
You want some statistics? I can give them to you.
Oh, you probably have the statistics. I'm just saying from personal experience.
Yes, it's 1 in 3 women, 1 in 3, and half of those women don't remember it. 1 in 3. Boys, it's 1 in 5, and they think it's even higher because boys are much more closed mouth about what happens to them. So they think it might be 1 in 3 for boys as well. That's an astounding number, and I can guarantee you it's a true number. Just like you said, from my own personal experience, I don't think I've met a woman that hasn't been.
Yep. Yeah.
If you have not been sexually abused, thank your parents, thank them. That's my book starts out with that. My daughter thanking me for it not happening to her, which is what my prayer was to God in the first place. Is I wanted my children to understand what I did for them by saving them from being sexually abused. And now they do. They get it.
And I make sure to tell my nieces and nephews and my little sister, she was so much younger than me, as soon as they could understand, I'm like, if anybody ever makes you feel uncomfortable with how they're touching you, you need to say something to somebody, even if they tell you not to.
That's right.
Because they shouldn't be doing that. And
that's right.
And that's one thing, if you're a parent out there, you need to explain that to your children, because
that's right.
If you don't, they think it's another authority figure, it's another adult, so I should listen to what they're telling me.
Well, and also there's grooming that goes on. A lot of grooming goes on, especially if it's outside. It can be inside the family. Most sexual abuse is inside the family. It is very rare that it's outside the family. And you can be groomed. You're told that it's your fault. You're told to keep a secret. When you're 2-3 years old and that's what's being told to you, you're going to keep a secret. You're not going to tell, and then you're going to suppress it, which is what I did. I completely forgot that anything had happened to me. I had no clue, none, until I was 38 and had lost it in the shower. And then I started having memories after I'd been in therapy for almost 2 years before I started having any memories. But it was the safety net that Rick provided, my husband, that I was able to do all this in the first place. If you don't have safety, you're never going to be able to do it. You have to feel safe in order to be able to do it. It's quite the journey. It's quite the journey. And it's one that I'm really thankful that I've gone through, because now I can sit here and talk about it openly, and I've written a book, and if it helps one other person, that's all that matters. If one other person like you and I talked before, I didn't know you had experienced all this. And to talk to you, you're my brother, Bob. You're my brother.
Yep.
You became my brother today. I love you so much. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. It's hard, it's hard to find somebody else that understands. And so especially all that you understand, like I said, living almost the same, different decades apart, but living the same
exact life.
Same in life,
Yeah.
And so, and I'm probably about the same age or close to when you found Rick too, and were able to start realizing things too. So
I was 35 when I met him. He was 29.
37.
37.
So that's what I'm saying. It's the same age, and
Yes.
it was just a few years back when, because and so if, especially if you're younger, just realize that you might think you're older yet, but you're not older yet. Like I'm 37, so even if I just lived to 67, that's still 30 more years.
That's
And
how old I almost am.
yeah, and most of my craziness has happened in the past 17 years. So when I think about that, well, if that amount of craziness can happen, what amount of awesome could happen
Oh,
in 30 years?
honey,
So
you can't even imagine how great it can get. And
yeah.
you're starting earlier than I did. It took me a long time because of my husband and son's death to even just decide to open my heart again to anybody.
Hmm.
Um, it's finally open again after 21 years. It took a long time
Yeah.
for to heal from that. So I'm so glad that it's open again. I really am. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's life is a trip. It's it's a trip from the
Yeah.
second you're born till the second you're in the ground, man. It's
Yeah.
a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. When I think about, man, like you could be dead right now. So whatever happens,
Oh yeah.
I even if it's bad, I just laugh at it now because it's
Yeah.
like I wouldn't have had this experience anyway. So I can just
Yeah.
find the humor in life. I can find the humor in things now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Why look at the sad side of it when there's so much to laugh about?
Hmm.
I mean, if anybody doesn't really realize it, God is one funny entity. Oh
Hmm.
my goodness sakes. He, hi Peanut. He's licking my chin.
Oh my goodness.
um, that's the way people, if you want to get to my heart, make me laugh. Oh my gosh, make me laugh. And Jesus, he's hysterical. We have had some great laughs in this RV, he and me.
Yeah.
So yeah, he can make things real funny, like thoughts he'll put in my head. I'll be just losing it in here laughing so hard because of the stuff he's feeding me into my head. It's like, yep,
Mm. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I
And
was reading Deuteronomy one day and I'm going, wow, wow. Oh my God, I would have had my hand chopped off. Oh my God, I would have chopped off. For all the bad I've done in my life. I'm not
yeah.
worthy of anything. But yet I've got a Jesus that says, guess what? Sins are wiped clean, honey. You're good to go. But if I'd lived in Deuteronomy, go read Deuteronomy, Bob.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it reminded me they were talking about when they brought the lady in front of Jesus and said stone her, we caught her being an adulterer,
Oh,
and they asked him questions, and instead of answering the questions, he just threw in the dirt,
yes,
and then
yes,
started. Well, you did this, and you
yes,
did that, and you did
yes.
that, and so you look at something like that and go, hey man, everybody's got their own ghost,
That
and
is, that's probably my favorite Jesus story of all. Isn't that Mary? I'm not sure if that's Mary of blah, blah,
it
blah.
might
I
it
know
might
we
be. I'm
have
not sure
ministers
either.
in the chat. Can they clarify for
Yeah.
us?
Can you guys that actually
Can
studied
you
it give us
clarify
the
what
answer?
prostitute we're talking about?
Yeah, I know Ridgely probably knows offhand, but
Yeah, no, he just draws in the dirt and he looks up
mm-hmm,
and everybody has left
mm-hmm,
and she's still standing there. And he says, no one condemned you, woman? And she said, no one, sir. He goes, your sins are forgiven.
yep,
When you have slept with 54 people in 1 year, do you know how freeing that is?
mm-hmm,
Do you know how freeing that is? Which is what I did under the symptomology of sexual abuse.
yep.
It's so freeing.
When I was, I was the same way, but I was using it to try to get a relationship out of it too, So I go chasing after women to get a relationship too because that's the only expression that I knew of love that would work. So
Yeah, yeah. My husband wrote me a letter. I don't know if you read that part of the book or not, but he wrote me a letter when we were going through all of this, and it's in the book. And it really talks about how he felt about our physical relationship to him and how horrible what had been physically done to me, and how can you take something done that's so horrible and make that feel like love? And that's all he wanted to do, was to make me feel love in those moments, not that horribleness that had been done to me when I was raped as a
Mm-hmm.
child over and over again. It's a real tightrope that you walk on, when you're trying to navigate a relationship when you've been sexually abused. Thank God my husband was brought up in such an amazing family that he had his shit together, pardon my French, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
truth. He had his stuff together and he knew who he was. And I was able to fall into his net and stay there until I was able to stand on my own 2 feet.
And that's I think that's a perfect use of the word godsend, because if he hadn't come into your life, you know, who knows what would have happened.
I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I can guarantee you that. I
Yeah.
don't know where I'd be. I do not know where I'd be. In a horrible
Yeah.
marriage, being beaten up, because that
Yeah.
was the pattern. Hmm.
Yeah.
No
Uh,
worth. I'm not worth anything. Hmm.
I'm
Yep.
sure it's probably been a driving factor to at least keep what he tried to help and support you with, and be a better person alive after he's been gone too, by doing the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I have all the proceeds from the book are going to go to charity. I don't want a penny. I hate money. And here's why. I grew up rich until I was 5 years old. I learned how to swim in a country club pool. My dad was extraordinarily wealthy, and I watched him beat my mother. I've watched money wreck my family. My sister married for money. It was the man who murdered my niece, was very rich, and money sucks. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not. It isn't money is the root of all evil. Get the verse correct. It's the love of money is the root to all evil. I hate money. So all the money goes bye-bye
Yeah.
to Huntington's disease, which my husband's family was just rampant with,
Yeah.
and to developmentally disabled children and their parents, because my son was unbelievably disabled with
Mm-hmm.
his mental limitations. So
and
that's where it
and
goes.
I yeah, and that's awesome, and I'm glad that you do that, and I love that I keep finding more and more people that are doing that kind of stuff. And the only thing, if I just make enough money on YouTube to survive, I don't care. Anything else is extra. Anything else
Yeah,
is extra. and
yeah.
and they've done studies like at about $75,000, money doesn't give you any more happiness.
Money
There's
doesn't
no
give you
more.
happiness ever.
Right. Well, they say just having the basic security of having enough to survive on. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We'll give you some sort of, not the
It
money,
gives
but
you
just the
security.
necessity. Yep, the
It gives you
security to be
security,
happy.
but it doesn't give you happiness. It
Yeah.
really, you know, your happiness must come within yourself, and money will never do that for you, because you can go out. I spent almost a $500,000 after my husband and son died. I did it in
Mm-hmm.
5 years. You want to know why? I hate money. And
Mm-hmm.
it was the way I grieved. And after spending almost a $500,000, they were still dead. And
Yep.
I was still grieving, and it didn't make me happy. And all it did was put cars in people's driveways and stuff like that.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Put me in sackcloth and set me in an RV. Now God's reducing me to a truck.
Yep. Yep. And I was laughing about it. I'm like, if Jesus can walk around everywhere being happy, I can be happy driving around in a van. At least I can go
Right.
faster than you can walk.
That's right. That's right. That is so true. That is so true. Happiness is where you find it, and that's within yourself. I have
Yeah.
never been happier than since I've lived in this little tiny RV out here in the country, in the middle of God. I'm just in the middle of God. And how can you not be happy when you're in the middle of God?
Yep.
I mean, wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And when you had that, you know, passage in there um, about or not the passage, but you're talking about all the medications that Rick had to take and all the different stuff that different medications in the book.
Oh, Michael had to take them.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Mike I'll take. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it reminded
Bite
me
me,
because
Tom Cruise.
because at one point I had to take about 6 different medications every day.
Wow.
So reading that, it brought me back to that and been like, man, I got through all that, and I
Yes.
got through all that, and now I've got this thing going, and it's like,
Yes.
and so your book, even though I don't have the videos to go back on, and look at where I am at now, reading your book, just my memories just came flooding back and going, hey, you went through all that. Remember all that you went through, and now you have this now, and so it just makes me even happier to be where I'm at now. Even though, yeah, I cried a little bit reading your book and stuff like that, remembering stuff, but it just made me happier being where I was at, because I was like, hey, you know, you had this whole life, and I'm sure after reading your book and realizing where you're at now, that you probably had the same thing. I mean, because you lived it, so for you to be able to read it in that fashion was probably incredible too.
Really have to share this. I actually didn't write this book. God did. I went back and read this book from cover to cover without doing any editing for the first time after I put it on Amazon. And I'm like, who wrote this? I didn't write this. There are words in this book that I don't even know how they got there. Um, I was just God's instrument, which I think all of us who represent Christ here on the planet, we're God's instrument. That's what we're supposed to be, is his witness. And so I've become a puppet. I'm just a puppet on strings. I live for one day only. There is no yesterday. There is no tomorrow, because I don't know what God's got planned for me today. I could die after I get done talking to you. I could be out of here, you know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so it's embrace today, let go of yesterday, because you can't do anything to fix it. You cannot go back and fix yesterday. I wish I would have known that. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, living in the past, it's horrible.
Yep.
And people like us tend to do that. We tend to for some reason, glom onto the past and hang
Mm-hmm.
there. And I think
Yep.
that's what drags us down, is because we won't climb into the present and live in the present and just let go of
Yep.
all that other crap that weighs you down. So I forgot your question.
I'm just saying, going through your book, like it's probably, even though we didn't have it on YouTube, it's probably you sitting in that trailer and you can finish your book and realize the life you lived and look at where you're at now, and
Oh,
it comes alive like a movie. Like, you can put down the book at the end of it and go, you know and it could be a movie. Like, if somebody wants to make your book a movie, it would make it really because, like you said, how you wrote it, you're flashing back to different things, but the main story only takes place over that week.
that's
But
right.
the whole thing would make a good movie, because
Yeah,
it's
it
just
would. It actually, Vanderella has texted me and she goes, "Who's going to play you in the movie?" And I went, "Well, me, of course." I can act, baby. I can act. I'm a good actress.
yeah, and if you don't know, the book is called Free Will Sucketh, and you can get it on Amazon.
Yes, and I just lowered the price by $3, so you can get it for
Nice,
$3.99 on your
nice.
Kindle or your any device that you can read on.
Yep, I was reading on the tablet, so
Yeah,
you can
yeah. It
pop
looks
pop it
pretty on
on.
there, doesn't it? Doesn't
Yeah,
it look
yeah.
pretty?
Actually,
Yeah.
I because it's got a bigger screen, so I
Uh-huh.
actually was enjoying reading on it a lot more. So I'm probably actually gonna start reading some more books again. But it was actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
Um, she should, you got to read her book. It kind of is motivational because all that stuff that she went through at the end.
Oh
But
yeah, it's motivational.
yeah, Conan Studio said you should write a motivational book, and that's what I was saying.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, this one is kind of it, I think. Yeah, and all through the book too, I use God and Satan through the book. They're on a
Mm-hmm.
stove. and either Satan's in the oven or God's in the oven or on the back burner. And yeah, so that way I show where God was in my heart and where Satan was in my unfortunately, had to deal with that entity.
I found it. I found it interesting the names you chose. Like, I know you probably had to do it, like, probably for legal reasons or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
was that something that you came up with, or was it like collaborative with your daughter? With some of them?
Oh no, this is all me. This is all me. And it fits each one of their personalities to a T. It's just who they were. It combines them down into one word. This is who they were. Tightwad was a tightwad. That's just who he was.
And then I think
snot-nosed kid was just a snot-nosed kid. Just
wasn't
who she was.
Dopey was one of your mom's boyfriends, right?
Oh yeah, that's the one I tried to kill everybody. Yeah. At 15. Over a can of hairspray. I had been put through enough already. Like from 12 on, I tried to kill myself when I was 12. Well, it just got worse. And so at 15, I was accused of hiding or taking my mom's hairspray, and I snapped. We were in the car, and I just started beating him as hard as I could and grabbing the steering wheel of this gigantic sedan, doing 65 miles an hour down a highway. And I kept hitting him and grabbing the wheel, and my mother is screaming hysterically, and I didn't care. I wanted to be dead, and I was taking them with me. I was done. We flew into a ditch, and I was pissed. I was so pissed that we were still alive. Oh, man. And then he gets out of the driver's seat and limps to the back and just beat the crap out of me. And then I'm being accused of coming off the drugs as we're driving over the Sahara, over Donner Pass. We get to a rest stop, get out of the car. My mom pops the trunk, and here on top of everything sits her little shiny can of hairspray that she had put in the trunk. She says to me, the only apology I ever got from my mother, I am so sorry. And I said, you can go to hell. And I turned around and walked away. It was within 6 months after that I was taken from her frying pan and thrown into my dad's fire, who raped me the first day I got there. Life in the fast lane surely make you lose your mind.
Yep.
So yeah, if I can survive what I've survived and sit here and smile, and if Bob can survive what he's survived and do the amazing things that he is doing for this community, anybody can do this. You just have to climb into God's arms and let him hold you. Just let him hold you.
And you have to put in the work too. God's not a genie. You have to be willing to work at it too, because keeping those thoughts out is something you have to work at.
Oh, it's very every easy. Day.
It's very easy to be like, oh, I feel bad about myself. And you have to tell yourself, no. Why are you saying that? You're fine. Everything's fine. Yeah. But it's hard because you always want to go. The Timmy Ray wants to know if you have another way to get your book besides Amazon. Is it available on anywhere else?
Not yet. If anybody is interested, I can do a paperback version. It'll probably take me a little bit to set it up, but I can get a paperback version going, and then it'll be available that way too. Because Amazon gives you that option. I just have not gone in and formatted it yet. So I can surely do that, and it will be available on paperback, yes.
Okay, so just get a hold of her, Timmy Ray. Go over to her channel and hit her up and say, I want a paperback.
I don't know if you can put my email address up. It's the Clumsy Vegan.
I can. Let me see here. It'll take me a second to edit it, but sure. I can. Okay.
And everybody in the chat, I'm so happy that you're here watching. I cannot see the chat right now. My concentration is just looking at my brother Bob and loving on his face.
It is at Gmail though, right?
Yeah, you can do the Hapi Camper at gmail.com. Yeah,
okay,
that'll work.
The Happy Camper. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
put
let's
it.
go that one. Because the other one's died. It's dead. It's over the hill, under
It's
the
over the
hill.
hill. It's
It's
gone.
under the hill.
It didn't make it through life.
No, no. I had a flower arrangement set to my husband's grave because he died when he was 39.
Yeah.
And when he turned 40, I sent a flower arrangement. I said, well, honey, you didn't make it over the hill, but you sure as heck made it under it, didn't you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think I got it now. There we go. Yeah, the
cool.
Happy Camper. Awesome.
Yay. I'll take any questions, anything, if anybody has questions, email me. I'm glad to answer.
Yep. Yep. And when the one that was like the most vivid scene, and maybe I'm putting two different chapters together.
That's okay.
But when you talked about how the accident happened and how the police come to your door and all that kind of stuff, and
Yes.
that just it's so vivid because when the phone call came, I didn't answer the phone. My wife at the time did. My dad had died,
Right.
and she hung up the phone and she said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but your dad's dead." And I was saying, "No, you must be my grandpa," because my grandpa at the time was in his 80s. He ended up living till like 95, 96.
Wow.
But he was in his 80s at the time. Like, you must be my grandpa. And no, my dad had a heart attack and died at the middle of the night. And I had just talked to him the day before.
How old was he, Bob?
63.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
so that's another reason why I'm trying to go live life now, because like you said, you don't know when it's gonna
No.
happen.
No, you don't.
And so the cops coming there, but then also you were saying when you were, and I have the thing when I drive by places too, I can have memories of places, but how the same place that accident happened that took Rick away, that you guys had God tell you to told him to stop or whatever, and you would have got hit by a cop car in the same place.
Yeah. Oh, you want to, okay, let's talk about that. Yes. Okay. So in 1995, my husband and I were delivering papers to try to make a little extra money. And most of the time, Elizabeth would go with him and they'd go do the papers. Well, this morning I was driving and he was in the passenger seat. And we, in North Glen, there's a intersection, 104th, which is a very busy intersection. And Irma, which is our street that we were coming out on, and there's a light there, and the light stays red forever at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I was going to run the light and just go on my merry way. My foot was hovering over the gas pedal when I hear really loud in my head, "Don't do it." And my foot went right back down on the brake. Within 2 seconds of hearing, "Don't do it," over the hill came flying a cop car doing about 120 miles an hour. Lights are flashing, no siren. If I had hit the gas pedal, all of us would have been street pizza because I would have hit that car right at the right moment. And I looked over at Rick and I said, "Do you want to know what I just heard in my head? Don't do it." We almost died. That is the car that he died in 5 years, 4 years later, not sure, 95 to 99, 4 years later. He died in that car, and my son. So
Yep.
when it's your time, you don't have any say so in it. You're out of here. And if it's not your time, you don't have any say so in it. Well, unless you go and take your own life. Then you have say so in your death. But otherwise, you don't have any say so in it. You might as well just enjoy the ride.
And what you're saying is you don't have any say so in it, because when I was reading there, like you were saying the whole time, ever since you found out that Rick had Huntington's, you were worried about him dying that way the whole time.
No.
Like,
He didn't have
or
Huntington's.
oh, he didn't. Well, was he worried about
He
having it?
was a lousy driver.
Oh,
He
okay.
was a horrible driver. Either I drove or I took a Xanax when he did. And that's a fact. This man
Mhm.
could not drive. And the day that he did die, for a constant 6 months before they passed away, I was being prepared for their death on a huge level. A week before they died, I burned all my journals because I thought I was dying. I had this overwhelming feeling that I was going to die. And my husband pats me on the head oh so gently and says, honey, you're going to live for a really long time. The morning that they died, Rick says to me, I have to go see Ray today. I've been putting this off since Christmas. Now, when you're hearing the words at the time, you don't really think
Mm-hmm.
about it. And
Mm-hmm.
then he said to me, can I have a hug and a kiss goodbye? Bob, never in my life ever had he ever said goodbye to me. It was never goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me if I wanted to go. And I said, no, I need a break from the boy today. I'll stay home. And I think I did a video that day actually on my old VHS camera. Um, and yeah, 7:30 that night is when I finally decided I better open my door to the cops that won't go away and find out that they just got killed
Mm-hmm.
on a highway. So yeah, I had lots of preparation before their death. It was really bizarre. It was
Yeah.
really bizarre.
Yeah.
2 weeks before they died, I was walking our dog and I had this thought. It said, if they died, if Rick died, would you stay here, move back to Illinois, which is where his family is from, or go back to hell, which is Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
And it stopped me in my tracks. It stopped me. And I'm staring at the pavement going, what the hell was that about? I pay attention to thoughts like that because I've had them my whole life. God's
Mm-hmm.
given me those kinds of thoughts my whole life. And when the police announced to me that my husband and son had died in a fatal car accident, I physically felt a release. I knew that I was never going to have to feel this feeling again, that this
Mm-hmm.
oppressive death feeling that had hung over me for almost 11 years. I won't, now I had the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It was like I said. You put it so vividly, and like you're saying, like the last things, like my dad would always like tell me, "Oh, I'll be over" or whatever, because I'd call the night before and ask him for help with the car, and
right.
he'd either tell me that he'd be over or maybe in a couple of days or whatever. And this time he said, "Well, we'll see." That was the last thing he said. And
Really?
yeah, and then my brother was hanging out with him. He was the last person to hang out with him. They were watching TV, and and my brother told me this, and I'm like, man, that I don't know how long it took him to get over it, but the last thing my dad, because he's like, I'm gonna go to bed. I got to get up for school in the morning. I'm tired. And my dad said, well, don't you want to hang out with me just a little while longer?
Oh, Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I'm
So
so
so I
sorry.
don't know. I don't know how he dealt with that, because that would be hard to deal with. And then your dad's gone the
Yeah.
next day, and he just wanted to hang
Yeah.
out a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I'll share this little story with you. I had a really good friend, and her husband was 42 years old, and she was a nurse. And they had gone to a basketball game. They'd been married, they'd been together since she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to bed. They got to bed, and he goes, I'm going to go sleep on the couch. And she goes, good. I'm not getting any sleep in here. Those were the last words she ever said. 42 years old, went out on the couch, and she found him dead. He had died of a heart attack. So you never know what your last words are going to be to somebody. Thank God
Mm-hmm.
mine were, you be careful. Those were my last words. I love you and you be careful. Those were the
Mm-hmm.
last words I ever spoke to my husband. And
Yep.
I don't remember seeing my son that day at all. I don't remember seeing him. It's the
Yep.
weirdest thing. I cannot recall seeing Michael that day. I know I had to have, but I can't recall it. And Michael had reports every day that he brought home from school.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, and his reports were always deplorable behavior. He spit at this kid, he threw a rock at this kid, he kicked the teacher, he's kicking the timeout walls, blah, 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 blah. On Friday, they died on Sunday. He brought home his report card. Every single teacher had one word, great.
Wow.
Every single teacher had written the word great on his report card. And after they died, you go back and look at that. He knew. He knew. he had a personal relationship with Jesus. And I heard for 2 years every day before he died, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go be with God and Jesus. I want to go be with Mima. I want to go be with Uncle Ken and Aunt Susie and all the people that had already died in this family. I don't want to be here anymore. 2 years every day, all day.
Mm-hmm.
He granted, God answered his prayer, but he had to take Dad with him because there's no way Dad would have ever survived being
Yep.
the fault of his son's death. So they had to go together, and they came into my life together, and they left my life together.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's like I haven't had to experience that, so I couldn't understand it. You know,
yes, you have, Bob. You lost your
I'm talking
dad.
about, yeah, but I haven't lost a child though, so I can't. You know,
Oh,
I don't understand that because and my parents did, because my baby brother died when he was 5 days old, had heart tumors and all that kind of stuff. So, but the side of that I learned years later was he was also one of the first infants that had open heart surgery. And so they videoed the surgery, and they were able to train other doctors to do open heart surgery on babies. So him dying or whatever was bad, but who knows how many lives it saves. And I only knew because my mom was in a doctor's office one day, and they saw her last name, and they said, when I was in medical school, there was a baby Schumann that we saw a video of to learn how to do surgery. Are you related? And he's like, that was my son.
oh my,
So
oh
even though
my.
his life was short, he still had an effect. So you
Look
never
at the
know.
impact he had in those short 5 days. Oh,
Hmm.
what a wonderful brother you had.
Hmm.
Wow, honey. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Here come the tears again.
Yeah. So they dealt with that, and it really, like, so when you're saying that he couldn't handle it, like my mom told me, like my dad, like for a while after that was just, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do the funeral plan. He couldn't do any of it because.
I was robotic through all of it. If it hadn't been for Rick's sisters being there, which they had just buried their mom 8 months before. I mean, there are 6 people in the family plot, all in the
Hmm.
immediate family.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
death is horrible. And
Yeah.
it's only through God that you get the strength to carry on. You
Hmm.
really, that's,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yeah. I didn't believe it when they came to the door, and they had to get the coroner on the phone because I
Hmm.
didn't believe it. I just, yeah, that was
When
a,
it's when it's out of nowhere, like when you have time to prepare for it, like if it's one of your elderly relatives and they're sick for a while or whatever, you have time to prepare for it. You can say something to them, you know what I mean, that you want to talk to,
yeah,
or ask them things that you always wanted to ask. But when it happens out of nowhere, you never get those. You have a bunch of unanswered questions. You have advice you'd like to ask, all kinds of stuff, and they're not around
yes,
anymore. So
yes,
it's a whole other thing on top of just the loss because.
yes, it is. It's an empty space that can never be filled. No
Mhm.
matter how hard you try, you're not going to fill it. And yeah, you just have to. I was cut in half for a really long time. I was cut in half, and I just didn't exist on any level. I just went to work, came home, drank, went to work, came home, drank, went to work, came
Yep.
home, and drank. And,
Yep.
and that's the other miracle. I'm going to share this because if there's anybody struggling with alcohol, on April 4th of last year, my Lord and Savior said to me, if you want your children back, you need to stop that. And he pointed right at my drink. I quit drinking on April 5th, and I haven't had a drink since.
Mhm.
Um, I know that there are people that really struggle with the addiction. I have not. I drank 21 years daily, rum and Coke, and I
Yep.
mean a lot of it. And I just walked away because the Lord gave me that miracle to walk away.
I can't believe you said rum and coke. That was my favorite drink too.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Rum and Coke.
It
Shit.
was mostly rum with a splash of coke by the end of
That's
the
right,
night.
dude. By the
But
end of the night, it's a splash of Coke. It's a freaking splash of Coke, and then you try to climb into your van and you
Oh
keep
man.
missing the
Yep.
steps.
Yep.
My
Yeah.
sister had to call the cops and have them come to her house and do a sobriety test on me
Oh yeah.
because I wanted to leave, and they're like, "You
Oh yeah.
can't go anywhere."
Yep. Yep. I thinking all the times God saved me from all those nights too. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's a miracle, and yeah, I don't drink anymore either. And I was never addicted to it, but I realized that I was using it for self-medicating to
I
deal
don't
with
know
the
that I
deal with
was
depression.
Yeah,
I
I
was
don't know
I
that
was
I was
doing it.
addicted either, Bob. That's the
Hmm.
weird thing. I mean, I drank, but I mean, I don't know. I was the only one my whole life that wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't start drinking until after Rick died,
Yeah.
and or a year before he died because of a daughter. But
Hmm.
um, I actually felt it in my brain when it happened because I could have drinks in my life and then just walk away.
Yep.
But this time it was consistent every day.
Hmm.
Um, and then when I moved in here, it started being in the morning
Yep.
into the coffee cup. It went just like my mother. I'm
Yep.
like, wow, what is wrong with you, girl? You better straighten this up.
And see,
But
there's something that was bad about your mom that she did that allowed you to recognize what was going on too.
oh yes, oh yeah,
Oh wait, I'm just being like when people say I don't want to be like my mother, there's a good side to that too. If you can take that and go, I don't want to be like her because of this bad part, that's part of learning.
that's right. That's right. She's being a witness to something that she doesn't even realize she's being a witness to
Hmm.
that you can draw from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do I still drink Coke? No, I've even stopped soda. I've tried to stop all the bad stuff out of my life and starting to eat healthier now and all that kind of stuff because I'm actually, and I think that's part of the problem too. Like if you're not happy with life, why do you care if you eat crap food? Like it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Who
matter.
cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
once you feel better about yourself, you go, I kind of want to eat something that's a little bit healthier. I'm going to watch what I eat a little more. I'm not going to eat as much or that kind of stuff. So that's part of it. And we were talking, it's a you got to do it. Don't try to do it all at once either. I would say, try
Yeah.
to work on one little piece at once. If it's depression, whatever it is, just try to work on one little piece at a time.
Yeah. And I want to say this about depression. Seek inside yourself instead of medication if you possibly can, because
Hmm.
medication is just going to turn you into a zombie. They
Yep.
put me on Effexor XR after Rick and Michael died. It was the worst thing they could have done to
Yep.
me. And I weaned myself off of it 2 years later because I couldn't stand to be on it. Depression is a symptom. It's not the
Hmm.
problem. It's a symptom, and you have to dig down to find out why are you
Yep.
depressed.
Yep. I,
Um,
I I used the medication just to keep me from going over the edge. But
exactly,
then I knew that I had to do the work. Like when I talked to the
exactly.
therapist, I'm like, I want the tools, but I know I need the medication to make sure that I have a boundary that I'm not going to go too far.
That's
And then
right.
then I was able to start the work and eventually get off of the medication.
That's right. And that I think that's what it should be designed for, is to help you get through it, not to just be the reason or the you take that and now I'm fine. No, you're not. You're still depressed. You still have to
Hmm.
deal with the root cause.
Yep.
Get the shovel and start digging down to the root cause.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And all of it sounds silly, and I've said it before, like motivational speakers and stuff like that, until my mind wasn't wrecked itself with negativity.
yeah.
All those messages sounded like bull crap to me.
Of course. Of course.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you just change your thinking, or whatever, man. You don't know. You don't know what's going on in my life or anything like that. But
Yep.
it's true. You just have to. It's not doesn't mean you're gonna be a mega millionaire, but if you change your way of thinking, you can at least change your outlook on life, and things will start changing for the better.
That's right. And you know what, Bob, you and I and many other people in our community, we're witness to happy is where you plant yourself. You're in a van. You're sitting in a van right now.
Hmm. And I'm the
I'm
happiest
sitting
I've ever been in my life.
Exactly. When I lived in sticks and bricks, I didn't know any of my neighbors. I didn't know any of them. I moved into this RV park. I know everybody around me. And
Yep.
we help each other and we support each other. And this community, I cannot get over how amazing this community on this YouTube is. I
Hmm.
am just in awe of the believers, in awe of the help that people give, in awe of the reaching out that people do. I am so happy to be part of that community. And I'm
Hmm.
so thankful for Bob at Blue Wave who got it going, for
Hmm.
Box Van D who's keeping it going, to
Yep.
everybody else that is doing what they can. I mean, I can name all kinds of people that are
Yep.
just doing wonderful work through this thing called YouTube.
Hmm.
I was watching Griswold last night and just sitting there going, wow, this is
Yep.
just wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's taken off everywhere, and the thing is, and you know, Blue Wave gave up his live spots that he had to other people, and that's the whole thing about our community is we want everybody that starts in here to learn. Like, just you can learn by watching what we're doing, learn what we're doing, take and do the exact same thing, and do it on your channel and start a community there, because we're all still connected. But
Yes.
the more we can bring more people into this, the more help we can give everybody, the more good we can do in the world.
Well,
And
you know
that's
what?
the whole goal.
This is the thing. This is church.
Hmm.
This is what Jesus intended church to be. A
Yep.
community of sharing and helping. That's we're in church.
Hmm.
It hit me last night. I'm in church right now. And it just
Yep.
was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yep. And instead of like, there's a lot of creators that they make money off of putting stuff behind, like, I'll tell you how to build a YouTube channel and da 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 and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
we're all open sourcing all this stuff. Every time one of us learns something, we share it with everybody else. So,
Yep.
you know, that's why, you know, that's why it's working, is
Yes.
because everybody does that.
We're
And
generous. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and everybody sees it, you know, and
Hmm.
because I've helped other people, I've gotten people to start talking to me that, you know, are, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
it's all about helping others. And like I said, your book, it just helped me remind me of things, you know what I mean, and reminded me, like, man, the stories I have, because I have stories that people remember about me. I don't remember them because I was drinking at those times, but apparently I made stories for other people at those times still. So I've always been making stories, even if I don't remember creating them.
Right. Right. Yeah, we do affect other people, don't we?
Yep,
Whether we realize it or not, we affect other people.
yep,
Yeah. Well,
yep.
I do have another book that I am working on. I've been working on it since before Rick and Michael died, and it's a murder mystery. And
Oh
I'm
man.
excited. Oh, yeah, it's a good one. Woohoo! Yeah, it's going to be good when it's done. And I'm excited to get back into it. But my computer died, and all of my files are on that computer, including that book. And I don't have a clue as to how to get to them on that computer. So,
Probably take it to like Best Buy or something like that when they open
yeah,
up
and
and see
have
if
them
they
get
can
the hard
recover it.
drive.
Yeah, yeah.
I smacked a bug and I killed the computer along with the bug. So,
Uh, you have
but
to make the
yeah,
bug a character in the book that ruins something that as like an inside thing, like a fly on
I
his coffee
should.
or something.
I should. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The maniac in this book. Oh, he's such a maniac.
Oh
Woo.
man. Well, you'll have to, once you have it written or whatever, and you have that ready to go, you'll have to come back on and talk
Yes,
about that.
absolutely. And Bob and I were talking, and I think I'm going to start doing some lives, and he's going to help me. So,
Yep. Yep. We'll get
um,
her going. You guys can ask her advice, you know, on how to get through things, and you know, how she's dealt with things, or advice on anything else from her. So
yes,
we'll get her
more
set
than
up and going.
happy to
Yep.
share.
Yep. Awesome. Well, go
Yeah.
check her out, and thank you guys for coming in for another
Thank
day.
you.
Go over and rate Roy and Becky, and I'll see you guys
And go
again
buy
tomorrow.
my book.
Yeah, go buy her book, please. It's very good. I'll see you guys later.